guys. So I'm gonna be just making a breakdown on the two kind of aspects of this project. So the first is the Blender side of things, and then the second is the Nuke side of things. So first of all, in Blender, what I did is I quickly created my camera move. I have the spaceship animation, and I created a planet. Now this planet, it consists of 3 layers. So a cloud's atmosphere and surface, right? So if I just give this a quick render so you can see the surface, might take a second to load. So this is the surface of the planet. I made the surface basically with my own node setup. It's basically just a planet surface generator that I created. Just has seed, some scales for different things, bump strength, or displacement if I want to use that, if I need to get up close. So this here, maybe I can link this node somewhere down below. You guys have to let me know in comments, but essentially I just created this here as a surface. Then for the clouds layer, pardon me, for the clouds layer, you'll see this in a second when this loads. This is basically a Earth clouds 43K map that comes from NASA. And I'm plugging this basically into a bump and displacement map. As a displacement, I'm having it, giving it just volume. I'm then using the map as an alpha, and I'm adding subsurface scattering, and then just adding some bump, which adds some detail to the clouds, basically. And then the final thing that basically brings everything in together is the atmosphere. So let's let this load for a minute as well. And this here essentially is just a volume scatter with a color and a density, right? And so this here, this brings everything in together. Now, as you can see, this takes quite some time to render. This is quite heavy, right? So what I did was I basically just took my normal resolution here, made this 150%, and I rendered out just a still frame of this. And I had actually, I think it was this camera that I used for that. Let's see. It's not this. Was it? How do I? There you go. Yes, it was this camera, and I just rendered out this a still frame like this here because I knew that from this side of things, once you get to this here, you won't. It's taking up the same amount of space, and I could just do it in comp. So this is pretty much the Blender side of things. I just rendered out all these render passes here so that I could recreate it. Forget the denoising data, I was just testing something out. And then all in open EXR multi-layer. My render settings, I had this at 0.01, 1024 frame samples, everything at 12 here. So that's what I used for the image. So now going into the Nuke aspect of this. This is not a very long script. This looks longer than what it is, simply because these here are back to beauties, or just, like render layer passes or whatever. So let me show you what I had. So here's the combined 5K image. You can see this is 5760 by 3240. So very high quality. This looks pretty decent. But the planet is kind of shit. There's no atmosphere blurring or anything. And that's kind of really what sells this effect. So let's go into the planet compositing. So this here is just, I'm just remixing these layers again back on top of each other to recreate the planet. Here I make my first adjustment. So I take the glossy pass and I basically color contrast this so that I get the brightest points. This is essentially just the lakes, and I just add an AP glow to this, and then when I add this on top, you can see this makes this glow on the lakes, which is like a reflection from the sun. And then when I add these together, you get this, and then here as well, just adding more stuff. Oh yeah, so for here, essentially, you can see in the middle, there's like a nice blue kind of like rim of light that's happening in the shadows here. And this is being controlled with this color here. So let's say I wanted to make this red. You have full control now over this line. And this here, the way I did it is I take my volume pass. I'm just simply rotoing with a, what's it called? It's one of these here, open splines, right? And I'm just choosing the width. And then I'm blurring this here. So it creates this. And then with this shuffle, I'm bringing all of the alphas into the RGBs. And then I'm multiplying it by a color. And then this is just a multiply for the strength. So here, basically, if I were to up this, you can see what it does. And this basically just controls some of the color here. And then I just grade it to be brighter. And then when I add it on top, you can see that that gives this, this kind of effect. Then down here, I'm using my combined just to pass on the alpha again to these because they lost it for some reason. And then here, I'm using, again, I'm just using this roto where I'm taking and I'm just placing a sphere just like this. And then I'm basically feathering this, which just reduces the atmosphere a little bit, reduces the rim. Then I'm cropping this to make sure that this doesn't extend. And then here, this is where it gets a little bit interesting as well. I'm just taking a ramp from left to right and another ramp from right to left. I'm multiplying it with a color on each side. And then I'm combining them together, which gives this. And essentially here, I'm taking this volume pass that we had up here, right? And I'm just creating a grayscaled version of this. And I'm multiplying it by this color. So I'm essentially giving myself this like orange color here as well as the blue color here. And then I just desaturate and brighten this a bit. And then here, and this does wonders, and I'll show you why. This grade node is just using basically a line that I created again from the roto, which I'm then feathering again. And this, you'll see this a lot on planets, which is this like this brighter spot right around the horizon of this. So if I turn this off and on, you can really see the difference that this makes in terms of selling this effect. You could forget about this part. This was just a bit of experimentation, but essentially I'm just caching out this here, and then I'm caching out the alpha. So I have this here when I rebuild this. Then here again, this is just back to beauty for the spaceship. Nothing too big of a deal. I'm just brightening it and just bringing up some glow onto the lights, which just gives me the spaceship. And I'm using again also this just an overall glow because this gives this feeling that the sunlight that's reflecting off it is quite bright. Then we have the stars. So here I'm using an Action VFX asset. So if I brighten this a bit just so you can see what it looks like. Essentially, I'm just cropping this to make it larger on the height side. I'm multiplying it by a ramp at the bottom here just so I can remove some of its visibility. I'm color correcting it to make it black and white, and then I'm transforming it so it goes up. The reason I did this ramp here is because I'm going to blend this with another image that's lower here. And I'm doing the exact same thing here. I'm basically just mirroring it, transforming it. I'm doing the exact same thing, but on the upper half this time. And then I'm, again, color correcting, and I'm mixing together. And this gives me this, like, little blur line here or whatever, this, like, darker line. Then, here, so I've got a noise. And I'm basically just reformatting, transforming, cropping, multiplying by color. Color correcting again. Multiplying again, and then I'm multiplying it here. Reason I'm doing this is just to add some color to it, and the noise just helps as well with adding some color variation. Then I crop this and I multiply this by a ramp, just decreasing a little bit here because I felt like this was too bright. And then I crop it one last time, and now I've got this image here, which is basically my stars card. Then, and this is where all the magic happens, it's the combining of the scene. I did create a 3D scene, right? So essentially I have my camera here that I imported from Blender, And for reference, now I deleted it from the scene, but for reference, I essentially had, let me see if I had a scene here like this. I had imported a sphere from Blender, right? And so what this really helped me with was I had the placement of where the Earth or where the planet was, right? So that just helped me basically in terms of like when I placed my cards, I knew exactly where to place them in order for the movement to feel natural with my camera. But essentially here I'm just creating a card, placing the stars behind here. And this basically just gives me, I'm going to brighten this again so you can see this, but this just gives me this movement like this. You know, so you can see the camera move like this, right? Then, and this, I'll explain this part in a second. I'm merging the planet over, and again, the planet, I'm just doing the same thing. This is where I had used the sphere as well to know exactly where to place the planet. But yeah, so once the planet is over, let me explain this part now. Basically, if I disable it, around the horizon, or around the atmosphere, you can see the stars through it. And this usually wouldn't happen because they would need to be brighter than the atmosphere, which just isn't the case with how close they are. So essentially, I'm just darkening the atmosphere by creating a roto again, just around, it's a really rough roto. I'm just blurring it and inverting it. And I'm just using this to keep only this part of the stars. Then here, I'm just adding some motion blur to this because there's none, obviously. And I'm just keeping this at 10 shutter samples and 0.5 shutter time. And then here, I have a spaceship, the spaceship pass. Now, I'll just quickly show you what it looks like this. So if I go in, what you'll notice here is that it's particularly dark in comparison to the scene. So I have two light wrap layers. The first one being just like an overall large, so it's just has high diffusion, right? And what this does is it just brightens the color in the shadows a little bit to fit the planet, as if it's entering an atmosphere kind of. And then the second one is a light wrap with a smaller diffuse value. And this kind of really just wraps the light around the edges. And so together this like merges the spaceship a lot better with the planet. And then this here is the final image for Nuke. So in Nuke, I'll just show you here like this, basically the before and after with the grading and everything. So in Nuke, this is what it looks like, and then this is what it looks like after the final grade. Hold on, I'll just do like this so you can, yeah. So you can see here, this is what it looks like in comparison to final grade. I did do a lens flare as well, and this here, it's quite simple. I just brought this into After Effects, and I used optical flares. I didn't even like track it. I just hand placed it and then just, you know, animated it. But I'll show you what I did for the DaVinci area for the grading. So for the DaVinci area, this is honestly quite simple, and I'll explain everything that I did. So I've now imported this, and I've converted this from ASUS into Rec 709, just simply because, yeah, it's whatever, you know. But I've already done my ASUS work, and you could grade this in ASUS, but it's, you know, I didn't feel like it for this one. But anyway, so I have a few layers here. So the first one is distortion. I'm using separate RGB values so that it does distort, but it also adds a hint of chromatic aberration, which you can see here with the reds and the blues coming out of the little lakes in the corner. I'm just retransforming this to fit. Then I have lens reflection. Now this is very subtle, but you can just see a very slight brightness addition here to this side of the image. Then I have a fill node, and this does the majority of the heavy lifting. Here I just have basically a few settings that darken everything. Now what I typically do is I'll build everything first, and then I'll use a film node in the middle, and then I can just adjust it, which is why it looks so dark here. But yes, it's just I'm lowering the exposure. I've got a little bit of bleach bypass. I'm adding some grain. I've turned on a halation. I'm using just a little bit of vignetting here. And then here I've got a glow. Now this helps brighten everything quite a lot. I've noticed this is a little bit like greenish tinty, so I had a tint removal. This here, it's just some custom values that I have from, you know, maybe the log area here like this in the shadows and whatnot. But this is just removing greens. Then I have the atmosphere bleeding. This here is just, if I show you, it's like I'm just taking the blues like this, and I'm just centering it at -1, and then I'm, you know, bringing down this value here and this one as well a little bit, and this just helps a bit with the colors for the atmosphere. And then I've got the color correct, like the grade basically, and this is just adding some blues into the shadows, and you know, you can see it here in the scope, a little bit of blues and shadows and a little bit of reds in highlights. Then we've got the flare, so you can see here the lens flare. Once this gets added, this is just a layer again that I brought out of After Effects. This here I have its own little color grading, so this is just an IDT, it's an input like transform. I'm just bringing it in input color space at Rec 709 with the input gamma of linear, just so it converts from this non-bright version. Then I'm affecting the temperature just because I wanted this to feel a bit more warm coming from the sun. And then I brought up the exposure, and then I animated the exposure here. So this is just giving me a base level of exposure, and then this here is for the animation. And I just hand keyframe this here like this so that this would like flicker a little bit where I wanted it to. And then I just added some grain. And this is just so that it basically blends with the rest of the footage. And the grain is just a film look creator again with everything off except for grain, having the same settings to make sure that it remains consistent. And so yeah, this is basically how I produced or created this shot. I hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown. If this was helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow my other socials that I have down in the description, and make some suggestions on, you know, future content, future environments, different types of breakdowns in Nuke or in color correction or whatever it is that you want. And yeah, thank you for watching, guys, and I'll catch you later. Peace.